right, guys, welcome back to Crossman Productions. You guys, I am really excited about today's show. We been talking about the movie Sound of Freedom, and I wanted to bring come in and do my review on the film. Last time we had my guest Cameron Arnett on, one of the things we talked about was a film that he did called "Don't Say My Name." So after the interview, I went back and saw the movie and realized that Don't Say My Name and Sound of Freedom, both these movies go hand in hand. So for those who have seen Sound of Freedom, we're going to also put a link up for Don't Say My Name. You can get that on a streaming it's Tubi television, but I'll confirm that with Cameron. But we'll put the link up so you guys can see that movie as well, because these movies both go hand in hand. So what we're going to do is we're going to give our review of The Sound of Freedom, and then Cameron and I will talk about Don't Say My Name and kind of, say some of the things that he learned about human trafficking and, the effects and, the aftermath of, coming and getting and helping these kids and helping get them reacclimated into society and things that they faced. So without further ado, I'm going to bring in my brother, Cameron Arnett. Thank you again, brother, for doing this, this review with me.
Well, brother, thank you for having me back. Again, we're dealing with an important subject. Right. Unfortunately, it's happening in our backyard. It's happening, on our watch. And it's not anything that I think that we're going to eradicate, unfortunately, when you think about it. But the thing about it is, whatever it is can be done, should be done. And sometimes we're not astute enough to understand how dire the situation is and how much people are in need of everyday help from everyday citizens. If like your show deals with, ordinary people with extraordinary stories. So it's like there are people around us every day that are traumatized by this kind of insidious action by other humans. And so we need to be more aware and we need to be more involved.
Right. Well, that's the thing, too, is that this isn't new. It's not something that's, it's something that just recently is being brought to light. Mm-hmm. By the mainstream media, I guess, mm-hmm. Finally. But one of the things, too, before we start on this, is that, after seeing this movie, mm-hmm. this movie was more than, for me, of, just going to do. This whole thing was more of a call to action. This is one of those things that require you to do something after seeing it. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of what we've been, working on. And then, like I said, Don't Say My Name, the movie that you're in, that works, hand in hand, because those who've seen The Sound of Freedom, understand, Tim Ballard went in and saved the kids, but, afterwards, once a kid is brought back out, or anybody who's brought back out of that, there's a restoration period, where you have to go in and, deal with the trauma and stuff. So we'll talk about that too. But so what we'll do is I'll start out. I'll let you give kind of your review of, what you thought about Sound of Freedom. And then, I'll jump in and kind of give mine, and then we'll talk about Don't Say My Name.
Okay, great. Well, again, Sound of Freedom, an extraordinary film, a film that everyone should see. Again, like I said, because we need to understand what's really going on and what it takes to actually circumvent this kind of mindset. Because as you're watching the film, you're dealing with how hard it is to watch this kind of action being taken, even though you know that it's a film, but you understand that it's a true life story of things that are going on, and you're watching the minds of people, and you're asking yourself, how do you find it so easy to do this to another human? What is going through your mind? Because I'm sitting there thinking to myself, What kind of insane person must you be to
Right.
be able to grab somebody's child, to be able to take somebody from the time that they're 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old, take them to adults that are abusing, sodomizing, beating, and injecting all kinds of drugs within their system, just in order to use them as toys and tools.
Right.
And so it's a hard thing to watch, and it's a hard thing to understand that this is going on, while we're living our daily lives. And so the film itself, well done, well executed, well acted. It gives you a bird's eye view, if you would. It takes you into the seediness of the situation, all of what has to be done in order to actually extract someone from that kind of a lifestyle.
Right.
But I think that the impartation that it does to us as the audience,
right,
is something that we have to take the time to really ingest. We have to really take the time to deal with, because I think the film is an answer to our not only lack of understanding, lack of knowledge, but lack of empathy sometimes.
Right.
We live sometimes callously as to $150 billion industry, and right. Since we did Don't Say My Name, unfortunately those numbers change, but they change in the wrong direction.
Right.
Well, it's becoming more and more and more of an issue. Right. And the numbers of the billions of the dollars are just growing, because instead of it being something that people find out about and are such an answer to, that the numbers dwindle, is something that those that are that are perpetuating this kind of life are getting away with, because we have a tendency to say, no, that can't be.
Right.
No, that can't be happening next door to my house, not in my neighborhood. I live in a how we think that our neighborhood, sometimes certain neighborhoods are, outside of the realm of the possibilities. And the reality is that those very neighborhoods that we think are so secure and so beyond these kind of things are the very neighborhoods that have the money to do
right
these sort of things. So as far as the execution of the film, kudos for them not allowing the powers that be, if you would, to squelch, something that, from what I understand, and the things that I've heard, time that it took to even bring it to the mainstream.
Right.
The fight that they had to go through in order to bring it to the mainstream, the rejection of other people that didn't want it to come to the mainstream. And I think that that's part of what we need to understand. We're not just dealing with what we see in the film. We're dealing with why we didn't see the film sooner.
Right. Yeah. And that's a good point too.
Yeah, and so again, I think that prayerfully, and from what I understand right now, it's making its way, internationally, and so there'll be so much more eyes on the issue, But again, a very impactful film, very well done. The acting is superb, the information is superb, and you have to buckle up and keep your eyes open to watch it. It's not your everyday entertainment, but it is something that is a must.
Right.
If we're going to be able to say that in our lifetime, in the knowledge of our own personhood, that we are able to be shown something that's worthy of our time, our efforts, our finances to get involved in, then it's something like Sound of Freedom.
Right. to kind of piggyback on some of the things that you said, the way I saw, the movie, like, so beyond the acting, I think was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I admire about the actors in that is most of the actors who, we're talking about how long they kept that movie on the shelf.
Mm-hmm.
The actors that's in it, the majority of them has already been blackballed from Hollywood anyways. So, the fact that they're in there, being the ones to bring this out says a lot about the film itself.
Mm-hmm.
And then some of the things I look at, when I review the movie is the storyline. Obviously, the storyline is, it's based on a true story.
Mm-hmm.
So, and it's a powerful story. And then, the chemistry with everything and the film altogether was just, I think it was a powerful tool. But more than all of that, I think it brought to light something that has been covered up for way too long. Like I said, this isn't something that, just happened, overnight. To me, it's still hard to believe that in 2023, we still have, a form of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all around the world.
Mm-hmm.
We keep talking about, the end of slavery or whatever, but it's truly not over. I mean, we're looking at slavery all across the world with the human trafficking.
It has never been over.
Right.
It changes forms. It changes, goes across the landscape of different humanities and different ethnic backgrounds and different whatever. But it's never been something that wasn't or isn't. And I think that that's an important part for us to realize, because once you allow it to be a thought that it ended somewhere, you miss the fact that all you've done is been a part of what allows it to remain.
Right.
There is a willful allowance or a willful dismissal of the truths of these type of truths in everyday life. We my wife and I, when we moved to because ministry wise,
right,
we purchased a building a while ago and started ministry, and we of course pastored for 2 decades, those kind of things, and we had to convince the city in which we went into, because it wasn't where we were living, but when we purchased, it was like at least a good, 45 minutes away from where we were living. Right. And we had to, in a totally different city. And so we had to convince the city that these kind of things were happening, the homelessness, the drugs and all these kind that was happening right under their nose, the city government. And they actually didn't like the fact that we unveiled, that we, showed them that they didn't know what was going on, or at least they were, closing their eyes to what was totally obvious to us. And so we were, we'd go behind the bushes, we go under the bridges, and we unearthed so much of what was there, the crack houses, the meth houses, and all inside the bushes, and in the woods behind the homes, and it's so right there with us, but it takes I guess a want to kind of lift up your eyes and kind of peer a little further than your conveniences to see what's happening in people's lives.
And on top of what you're saying is, it's mind-boggling to me. People are still trying to deny it exists. Even with this film, you got a lot of people, talking about it being a conspiracy theory, and that it's just mind-boggling to me why people are still trying to deny its existence. It's already been, people know it's a fact. They know it's a fact. We have 85,000 kids that came up missing, last year. And then what they like they were saying, Mexico is the biggest producer, America is the biggest consumer. So when I was talking to Project Rescue about this, what amazes me is that we're the biggest consumer. That means it's happening, all over the place. That's the other thing too about this movie that I realized is that everybody's looking for some creepy guy in his mom's basement doing this, but it's not some creepy guy in his mom's basement. It's people in leadership roles. The customers are people who have, are in leadership roles in high positions.
Yes.
I want to say politicians, people in, with big platforms. We'll just say that.
Well, in order for anyone,
right,
to be able to consume anything, in order for anyone to be able to be the ones who are able to consume anything,
right,
that means that you must possess the wealth in order to consume that thing. And so the reason why America is that great and large consumer is because the wealth resides in the hands of those that are here. And so making meat, if you would, making a meal of the rest of the world is because the wealth is there to be able to do that.
Right.
And so we have to be able to take a look at, the fact that money has a purpose, but with fallen man, that purpose is inverted.
Right.
The same wealth that can be used to rescue people in America are using that wealth to captivate and bring people into slavery, children into slavery, humans into slavery.
Right.
And we have to wake up to the fact that this is being done and this is being allowed. This is perpetuating. The powers or the wealthy are part of the ones who have their hands in this, so much so that it can remain, that can be hidden, that it can be, unveiling it can be thwarted, all those kind of things. And so again, back to the ordinary people.
Right.
If you're not perpetuating it, you have to wake up and be aware of it, because a lot of what allows things to continue is just lack of awareness, lack of willingness to have your eyes opened to it. And that's what I love about doing the kind of films that I've been able to be a part of. Is the 90% of all of what I do, and just like Sound of Freedom, 90% of all of this is unveiling dark truths by bringing light to it.
Right.
So I've been extremely fortunate to be a part of that, and that's what Don't Say My Name, that continuation of, if you would, of Sound of Freedom is Don't Say My Name, because you're dealing with now not only having rescued, but also now what happens to the rescued, what kind of life has to be maintained, and how do you bring that person out of that their PTSD, if you would, their victimization, their trauma, and what it takes, and some of them, you deal with not only rescuing them from the actuality of what they went through.
Right.
Some of them never make it out of the trauma afterwards. And so there is a hands-on continuation that we as Americans need to have in these lives. We need to have an empathy and understanding that you have to have patience and be willing to take the time to deal with the fallout, of that life.
In talking about Don't Say My Name, I have two basic questions, two big questions about that. One is, when doing a movie like that, how did you prepare yourself for that kind of role?
Well, again, I think the research of understanding how insidious and how large the problem is, first of all, because again, I play Agent Colbert, so I'm dealing with one who actually goes out and rescues, one who actually goes out into the underbelly of the situation, just like we see Caviezel doing in Sound of Freedom. And so the understanding of the problem itself, that it is large, it is overwhelming, it is every day, it is right here in front of your face. It's not, just around the world somewhere in dark places. The darkness is right here, right next to you in your own neighborhood. And so understanding that, and we had, agents that came in and trained us, and that basically gave us information, taught us exactly what this is really like. And so we spent some time with them to understand the mentality and the perspective and the hardship upon their own lives. And I let me put a pin right there for a second to say this. When we look at the problem, we have to understand it's so multi-leveled, because you're not only dealing with the child or the female or the young boy or whoever it is that's being trafficked, but now you're dealing also with their families and the trauma there. You're dealing with also their own reversal of trauma that you try to help them through when they actually get here, but also the agents themselves.
Right.
These are things. Can you imagine having to deal with this on an everyday basis? Think of him having to go in and leave his family,
right?
Possibly, with the possibility of never making it back, leaving children, all of that, going through all of the undercover aspect of even making believe that I'm okay with this, and watching the children that I can't bring out, don't bring out, have to leave behind, having to allow certain things to even happen while I'm trying to find the one who I'm looking for. That's trauma that these agents go through, and they bring that home and have to deal with that. It's almost like they need rescuing. Their family themselves need rescuing, and those are the things that we learn in the process of doing Don't Say My Name, is what remains with the agents themselves and their families, having to deal with this on an everyday basis, and then coming home and looking at their children and having to be concerned, if you would, if something happened to their own family, because now not only is that a possibility because it just is, but also it's a possibility because now you're one who has put your hands to the plow of trying to rescue people, and the people that you're rescuing the children from, they don't take it lying down. You're dealing with billions and billions of dollars. So if found out, they will target you and your family. These are kind of things that I think the average person needs to be aware of, not only what's going on, but what it takes to be someone who's an answer to what's going on to that level. And so we need to really be in prayer and really need to be concerned with even those who give their lives for the process. When you're watching this and people talking about, conspiracy theories and blah, 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 and kind of bad mouthing it. No, these guys are to be commended for their service. We talk about servicemen that go out and fight wars. These guys are fighting an everyday, overwhelming, they're seeing things that they should never see. And they have to go home and be normal for the rest of their lives. And it's just not that easy. And it just doesn't happen without, any kind of help for them as well. So.
Talking about that, it reminds me of the kind of opening scene for Don't Say My Name, the event that happens at the beginning. I don't want to give it away because I want people to watch the movie. But I'm talking the opening scene where your character ends up getting involved. Seeing something like that, and then having to go home to their family.
That's right.
I can imagine.
That's right.
When
we watch the news, normal everyday person, you watch the news, whether it's world news or whether it's your local news, whatever, you hear of criminal acts that are happening, and sometimes you even have to turn the channel because you can't take it on a regular basis. But these guys, these agents, are the ones that are there seeing the debauchery, seeing the bodies, seeing the abuse face head on, eye to eye, and having to walk away and be normal after seeing that day after day, year after year. And so, yeah, it's something to really think about, and it's something to be prayerful about, and something to be to give your money to. It's something to
Right.
to put your hands to the extent that you can as a human.
Right.
And I say, so yeah, I'm very grateful to be a part of this kind of a thing, and very grateful that Sound of Freedom has seen the light of day, and to bring this kind of awareness. And again, I'm glad that because of it, Don't Say My Name is also now beginning to get the eyeballs of people to see
Right.
what happens in the aftermath, and how important it is for us as Americans, and wherever you may be, just to be
Right.
involved in the lives of people in the aftermath.
So, before we wrap up, I just want to ask you one more question.
Mhm.
With, Don't Say My Name, what was the biggest takeaway that you learned after doing that film?
Other than the overall aspect of how many victims, are within this whole sphere of craziness, because
Right.
there's so many lives that are touched by it, and indirectly, whether we know it or not,
Right.
we're being touched by it, because it affects all of life around us that we may not even be aware of.
Right.
So that was an illuminating factor to me. It's like, wow,
Right.
how many lives. As a matter of fact, something else that happened was during the court case. Again, I don't want to give it away, but
Right.
during the court case within Don't Say My Name, there was a young lady who had been a victim of trafficking that was in the audience of the case on as far as being us shooting it for the
Right.
film. And when the verdicts were handed down, there's a certain point in when she just lost it,
Right.
because it was so real to her,
Right.
and it was so whether it brought her closure and things that happened in her life, but the case, and we're filming this, and this
Right.
person just lost it. And so to see that aftermath, that continuation, that thing inside of her still that can be pricked by watching, because again, Don't Say My Name is not, it's not based on a true story, is based on true stories.
Right.
It's a composite of many stories that were put together to make this one film. And so there's so much that's in it that deals with so many aspects of what happened to different people. That was so it's the stories are true, although it's not just one story. But
Right.
we found a connection to the stories even
Right.
while we're filming it, and that was quite impactful. You don't walk away from that kind of a testimony and not realize the impact that these kind of things and these kind of films actually make, and the kind of closure, empathy that you're bringing to the masses that have been abused, by them understanding and seeing their story on screen and realizing that people care, and it's coming to the forefront. And so that's bringing them closure that they didn't have before.
Right. So yeah. So now if somebody wants to see, it was on Tubi, right? Am I right on that?
It is available on Tubi, so you can go check it out. And if you just Google Don't Say My Name, you'll be able to find all the other places. But definitely on Tubi, you can go ahead and check it out. And thank you for all of you who have actually done that, because it's been blowing up as well. And again, it's not just about a film being seen; it's about how to be an answer, and how to have some kind of empathy for the people that are going through this, and understanding the large spectrum of victims that occur when one life gets put into the bondage of slavery like that, whether it's sexual or otherwise, and how it affects society, and how you can be a part of being an answer to it.
Right. And so just for my audience, there's a lot of people who after seeing this is looking for different ways to get involved.
Yes.
So you brought up a good point. Not only, are there organizations out there like Project Rescue, which interviewed, my audience can go back and see the interview with Project Rescue, but they can also start ministries and programs to help the aftermath.
Correct. I'm glad you brought that up, because I think that's really the main thing. It's almost like, when we talk about awareness or any kind of product, you're dealing with distribution, right? And so there are multiple organizations. There are multiple churches, venues that, as an individual, you can spark wherever you are. You don't have to find an organization. You can become an organizer where you are, through the church, through whatever that you're already doing, just to bring awareness around you. It's not a matter of just throwing some money out, letting it be their issue to go deal with. It's saying, where I am right now, how can I be a spark in my church, in my organization, to be hands-on, because everybody's not going to touch everybody. But it's not until you have major distribution of awareness and of action that those who would fall through the cracks can be touched, because now there's someone closer to them than someone who's around, the other end of the city, that kind of thing. So please take it as a personal responsibility to spark a conversation and an awareness in your church, where you are, in your organization, because we all have a part to play in taking care of, watching over, especially our children.
Right. And in addition to that is that, this is one of those things that the media is trying to quickly make go away. And, as believers, as parents, as, just members of society, this is something we really need to fight to keep in the forefront.
Yes.
So go see the movie, watch both movies, make sure you're keeping that in the forefront on the media side, but also, get involved in these programs so that we can, so it's not just a flash in the pan, movie came and gone, and we got a lot of work ahead of us. This is just the beginning. And so we need to be out there, boots to the ground, doing what we need to be doing to make sure that this does not fade away.
Yes. If you take a look at the film like Sound of Freedom, Don't Say My Name, most of the knowledge base, or most of the viewership understanding of it being there to tell the story, has been through cyberspace, has been through the internet, those kind of things. So most of the what information is being given, it's not on the mainstream television. It's not on. So even in us doing these kind of interviews and telling the story of these two films, we're doing it here. But as you watch mainstream television, as you listen to the radio station, as you listen, you don't hear a lot about Sound of Freedom. You don't hear a lot about Don't Say My Name or movies like this, is because they are putting out their information and kind of trying to push this to the background. And so we have to be the ones who understand that it's on us, it's on our shoulders. So thank you again, because sometimes we have to just say thank you to those who are part of the solution, because there are many of you, or else the information itself on both movies wouldn't be out in the public mindset as much as it is right now. So thank you. Continue and impart the information. Be that distribution center for both films, so that people are able to come out of this situation the very best way that we can possibly be for them in the process.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, thank you, brother, again for jumping on and doing this this review with me. I know you've been busy, man, and I'm glad that you're able to take time out and hang out with me for a little bit. And I was really looking forward to this, because I knew the importance of bringing out both of these films. and talk about both of these films.
It is, and my wife and I just got back, from doing another film, and we'll have a lot more of information about that in the months to come. And so I'm sure we'll be talking again.
Awesome. Yeah, you're anytime, brother. You're welcome back anytime. And yeah, I know you got a couple of projects you're working on, and when those are done, yeah, we'll come back and we'll talk about those projects and catch up.
You got it.
All right, cool. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Until next time, remember, you are uniquely designed with a purpose, and always keep moving forward. Peace.
God bless.